if he's going to convince you, but also more importantly, your listeners, that some of the problems that the country faces right now are not of the Conservative Party's making, they're to do with the international situation.
Yes.
Got a much better chance of doing that if he's honest and says that some of the problems are self-inflicted and that he's now got to sort them out. So I think that candor, which we don't always get in politics, was really quite important to that. Whether or not you're listening to this program and you're a Conservative, what we need is stable government. And to get stable government, we need the backbenchers of the Conservative Party to be prepared to support the government. And what he has not done is to repeat the mistake that both Boris Johnson and Liz Truss made, which is just to appoint a cabinet of loyalists, of the people that backed them.
Yes.
So he's appointed people from across the spectrum of the Conservative Party. I also think that there are some good, talented people who were got rid of by Liz Truss who've been brought back. Michael Gove, in particular, I think, at Levelling Up is really good to see him back in government. He is, I think, anybody who, whether you're a Conservative or not, would say he is one of the most talented ministers that the Conservative Party has available. And then I think there are some talented people that were long overdue a promotion that have been brought in. So Mel Stride at Work and Pensions, who's been the chair of the Treasury Select Committee, I think he's going to prove a really good appointment.
Right. And achieving balance in that cabinet, when you have a divergent range of opinion and members of different factions in the party, that depends on discipline from the centre and self-discipline on the part of those ministers. And so far, there hasn't been a huge amount of self-discipline. Do you think that will now emerge?
Let's hope so. Well, I think the Conservative Party is in the last chance saloon. If it can't make this work and deliver the stable, competent government that people have a right to expect, then we're going to have a general election. So, we've heard far too much, John, over the last few months about the internal politics of the Conservative Party and what's going on. And we need to hear a lot less about that. And we need to focus on delivering good policy that addresses the real concerns that people across this country are quite understandably going to have right now. The other thing I would pick out that really cheered me up, John, is something that Rishi Sunak said in that speech today, where he was honest that part of his job is to fix mistakes that have been made by the previous Conservative government. And I think if he's going to convince you, but also more importantly, your listeners, that some of the problems that the country faces right now are not of the Conservative Party's making, they're to do with the international situation.
Yes.
Got a much better chance of doing that if he's honest and says that some of the problems are self-inflicted and that he's now got to sort them out. So I think that candor, which we don't always get in politics, was really quite important today.
Right. Just stay with us, Gavin. I just want to bring you a little bit of news. We've got one or two more appointments coming. Lucy Fisher's on the line. Lucy, hi. What can you tell us?
So, John, Alistair Jack has been reappointed Secretary of State for Scotland. He is just leaving the building now as I speak. And David T.C. Davis has been appointed Welsh Secretary. That makes him, along with Gillian Keegan, so far the only two new members of the cabinet, as in people who have never served at the top table previously. Still a few more to come later tonight. Robert Jenrick, Tom Tugendhat have arrived in Downing Street. We don't know what they're going to be offered yet. Mark Harper, Gavin Williamson, Andrew Mitchell also inside the building, their roles unconfirmed.
All right, Lucy, thank you for that update. And Gavin Barwell, more evidence there of the Prime Minister drawing from various ends and different wings of opinion in the party, which is exactly what you wish to see. All premierships and administrations, Gavin, depend so much on the personality of the leader. What does Rishi Sunak's personality tell you about the way this government is going to be conducted and conduct itself?
So I think he's serious. I think he's somebody who, talking to the civil servants that worked with him in the Treasury, they had a respect for him because he mastered the detail of the briefs that he was, or the submissions that we put to him. So I think he's going to demand high standards from his ministers, both in terms of integrity. There was a kind of veiled criticism, I would say, of the Johnson government that we had in the speech today, and also high standards in terms of, mastering the detail of their briefs. Now, you probably say to me, well, those two things should be a given, but they haven't been a given.
Yeah.
For for the last few years, and that is a big step in the right direction.
Yeah, I take it as read, Gavin. You wish the Conservative administration nothing but well. But be honest with me, the deficit in trust between the government and the people that has grown up. Look at the opinion polls. Is there a danger that's now just too deep to recover from?
I think, John, it would have been really difficult for the Conservative Party to win the next election, even if the last few weeks hadn't happened. They've been in government for a long time, and the country is about to go through a profoundly difficult economic period. And even if it's not all of the government's making, the government is going to get some blame for that. So I think it was going to be difficult already before what we went through over the last few weeks. But to me, you can't worry too much about the politics there. It is what it is. What they need to do now is to do a good job for the next 2 years, to try and recover some of the Conservative Party's reputation, that trust that you talk about that has been lost to a degree.
Yeah.
That's the best way politically to save as many Conservative MPs as possible at the next election. So we've heard too much talk about the internal politics of the Conservative Party and what's in the Conservative Party's interest. Let's get back to what's in the country's interest, to delivering good government. And Rishi Sunak and his MPs and his ministers will get rewarded if they do.
Okay, look, your point is taken. Make that point, but I just finally want to ask you, has it ever crossed your mind that maybe what the Conservative Party needs is a period in opposition to recharge its batteries, to reflect on what it's there for, to come back stronger than before? There comes a life in any government after a period of years in office when that becomes part of the conversation. Has that thought occurred to you?
Look, you're definitely right that parties need that sometimes. It is a little bit of a siren voice because, John, I'm old enough, sadly, to remember the last time people made that argument in the mid-1990s, and the Conservative Party was then out of government for 13 years. So, what you have to try to do after a period like this is see if you can rejuvenate in office. It isn't easy, but you'll remember the third Thatcher government, and actually after the 87 election, there was a kind of quite a strong policy refresh, and then Major was able to really, refresh the government completely with the change of leadership. So I understand entirely what you're saying. We clearly can't have more of what we've had over the last, really over the course of this calendar year, but the Conservative Party has to try and rejuvenate itself in government rather than just giving in and saying, well, what we need now is a time in opposition.
Right.